Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, starring Jerry Springer with Gene Galvin and me. I am Maria Corelli. We are recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience here in Folk School Coffee Parlor of Ludlow, Kentucky. And here he is, ladies and gents, Judge Jerry!
Thank you. So we were just talking off camera here or off microphone.
These are microphones.
Camera, if you include Facebook Live. Yeah, well,
Facebook Live,
wave
right.
to Facebook Live. Hello.
That if this bit about putting my face on Mount Rushmore isn't catching on as much as you allege,
Oh, it's catching on. It's huge.
why not? Let's find another hill in America.
Like in Ludlow, Kentucky.
Yeah, where you just get a mold of my face, which
Yes.
is pretty moldy to begin with,
Yes.
and just slap it on the side of a hill.
Just some cement.
See,
And
Yeah,
then make it a
but
tourist
Attraction.
It's the way you describe it.
so stupid.
Look, when they put T.R. Lincoln, Washington, and Jefferson on the face, on the mountain,
Yes.
in Mount Rushmore, they didn't just slap it up there. I mean, they chiseled it in. There were artisans who hung down from rappelling ropes, and they worked and worked for years. They're doing the same thing with Crazy Horse on the backside of the mountain, because I've been there
that
too, and it's
actually
wonderful.
belongs to them.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And you look at this like, oh, let's just get some hill in Ludlow and slap my face up there. No, I don't think that reveres you in the way that we intend.
Well, we'll just put some
I
other
don't want to know what you intend.
we'll put some other celebs up there. We'll put Beyonce.
See, that's interesting. So you say with Beyonce, who else were you thinking?
Maybe Cardi B.
Cardi B. So you have Jerry Springer,
Yeah.
Beyonce, Cardi
And
Who
maybe
doesn't belong in this?
some
and
Lil
Justin
Wayne.
Timberlake.
Oh, JT. JT's a great one.
Yeah. Anyway, it's out of control. It's almost like, I'm sorry, this woman, I forget her name, from Laramie, Wyoming,
God,
started this.
now it's
because I
just
spend
wild.
most of my time now as executive producer managing this Rock Jerry's Face movement, because it's pushing all across the country. Social media shares. Everybody's got Rock Jerry's Face. You know, you go down the street and you hear people chanting, Rock Jerry's Face, Rock Jerry's Face.
Thanks.
And I spend the whole day ducking rocks thrown at me.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, find something less violent, okay?
So we got Easy Tom and the Black Mountain Throwdown coming on later. We like them. They were on last week, and we said, hey guys, come on back, and they were able to do it, and they are. And Jerry, we're going to ask you in a minute to talk about democratic socialism is a movement happening within the ranks of the Democratic Party. I'm not saying everybody buys into that approach, but there are plenty of people and a lot of elected U.S. House members who are pushing that agenda. That's going to be an interesting thing to ask you to analyze. The drummer of Black Mountain Throwdown, his name's Patrick, lives in a house next door to your home, your first bought home, and on the western side of Cincinnati,
Western Hills Avenue?
Western Hills Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio, back when you were a city council member.
Yeah.
Lives right next door to
Wow.
Even
it.
just,
And says the place is just in horrible condition. Horrible. The blight of the neighborhood.
that's
No.
what you get for $8,000 a year.
Hey, yeah, that's true. That's
That's
true.
what it was when I started. Seriously, when I was first elected to city council, the pay was $8,000 a year,
What year was that?
Whoa.
1971.
Wow.
And then a couple of years later it went up. So by the time I left being mayor, it was something like 32,000, but it was 8,000
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, back then, I remember we were friends. We were all hanging out together, you and I and
I
our
could be
spouses.
friends with you then because I was
Well,
poor too.
I was going to say. I was a young
Now it's
teacher.
kind of embarrassing.
That is exactly the point. I was a young teacher, Cincinnati Public School, a young city council member. I was making about the same salary as a young educator in the Cincinnati Public Schools. And then fast forward to today, and it's like, what? How did this happen?
Yeah.
I think the answer is talent. Anyway, hey, you know, Speaking of talent,
Yeah, well.
the Queen City Balladeers,
Yes. Oh, wow.
longest lasting folk music organization in the United States, started in Cincinnati in like 1965, I'm guessing. I was one of the first members.
Yep.
Michael Sylvester started it with a couple of other people at the University of Cincinnati. I was at Xavier University, also in Cincinnati.
His brother played at our wedding.
Eric
At my
Sylvester.
wedding. Yeah, he played. Right.
He
There were
also
only 50 people at the wedding, but he was strumming the guitar.
And he, by the way, played backup guitars for Mary Travers from Peter, Paul, and Mary when she went out on a solo tour. So Eric Sylvester is, he was quite talented.
And this is a little side story too, but it shows you how out of touch I am. We met Eric because McGovern was running for president the year before. We got married in 73, and McGovern was running in 72. And about 5 days before the election, there was a big rally at the University of Cincinnati.
I was there.
Yeah, inside the arena there.
In the basketball
There were
arena.
10,000 people packed into that arena.
Yep.
There were literally, some of the students were sitting on the backboard.
Yep.
It looked like, oh my gosh, how could McGovern lose? That's how out of touch we were.
Yeah.
But literally, the only people in America who voted for him were in that. We didn't know that. And Eric Sylvester played this song. I got up there to say a few words, and then Eric Sylvester played this song from John Denver, I Wish I Knew How to Be Free, which is a great song and a great political song. I loved that song. Fast forward a year later, Mickey and I are getting married. It was literally a shoestring budget for the wedding. There were 50 people there, and they all our relatives. And then we asked Eric, would he be the musical entertainment? So he played the guitar as Mickey walked down the aisle, but then beforehand to play some songs. And he says, give me some songs you want me to play. And everyone always says, play the wedding song that Paul Stuckey does.
Noel Paul Stuckey did, yeah.
And I, not thinking, loved that song, I Wish I Knew How to Be Free. I swear to God, this is not a joke.
That was
Mickey
stupid.
was outraged. She says, how stupid are you? So Mickey's walking down the aisle to I wish I knew how.
That's a great story,
That's
dude.
a true story.
That's a good one. That's hilarious.
So when you just started mentioning the Zorcheks, yeah.
Poor
But go
Mickey.
ahead.
That's actually very funny. Well, the Queen City Balladeers, their people and my people have been in talks about resurrecting Jerry Springer as a folk singer to come perform, to come to the Queen City Balladeers Leo Coffee House, which is a
remember
wonderful.
that? Yeah.
That's the thing that's never stopped running for all these years. So it's a listening room, and it's organized. So you come in, you do a half-hour set.
Yeah, we're going to do
So-
that one night. Yeah.
They would like you one night to come in on a Sunday night, and you and I, both of whom had folk groups when we were in our college years.
Yep.
Maria Corelli, who actually is talented and is
Well,
a
she can't be there
singer-songwriter.
then.
No, we need her. Casey Campbell, our music coordinator,
Yes.
also talented.
As long as he shaves.
Singer-songwriter. So we want to get Casey and Maria. They'll be the stooges in the group,
Yeah.
the people who kind of keep this thing afloat. And we would do 5 songs.
Yeah.
Sounds
So
awesome.
you would do one of your songs. Casey would mention this a couple weeks ago on a podcast.
Yeah.
So let's do this.
Okay.
That'll be great fun.
Let's
So
do it.
down.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do is actually then
How much are tickets?
tickets are
They're going to have to be free.
free.
And you got to
Hey,
pray that it's really
when-
cold outside so people just come in for warmth.
When we came in here tonight, and I drive, pick up Jerry at the hotel. We come over here. We're getting set up. I go out into the other room of the coffee shop, and you're back here with Easy Tom and his group, and you're jamming on Banks of the Ohio, just because you like to do that.
Yeah.
Because you are an old folk singer. So if we get this thing organized, I tell you what, that place will be packed.
Oh, man, I think you get a bigger crowd than you do about putting my face on Rushmore.
I'll tell you what, if we do that show, there's another opportunity for us. Hey, look, before we move on to this next thing, people listening, go to rockjerrysface.com, sign the petition. There's a petition there. There are so many names on that.
How many names?
I just know.
Flat out. You've had it up there for what, 2 weeks?
I got work to do. I'm not going to sit there and read all those names. Unbelievable. Last thing I wanted to ask, a real happy thought. When we all die, and we're all going to live many, many lifetimes here, I was talking to my son, because my mother-in-law died. My mother-in-law was 94, and she died. So that gets everybody think family comes into town, blah, blah, blah. Have the funeral, have a gathering at a relative's home. And you start, that makes you think, well, how am I going to do my thing? And, I'm thinking of have my body donated to science. And then
why would they be interested?
I hear you. But here's the thing. I asked my son, because I'm an avid backpacker, so take my ashes, I'll do cremation, and go out on the Highline Trail in Montana and just spread those ashes out as you go. That's what I want to have done. That's where I want to be.
Sounds nice.
It sounds,
you mean we have to come out there?
No. That happens later. He just goes backpacking and just.
Because once again, that's going to cost me money.
Oh yeah, he might become an Uncle Jerry.
Now I got to buy a plane ticket.
What do you believe in? Are you just you going in the ground? What do you believe?
I'm going in the ground.
You're going. You got a place already?
We've got the plot.
You got it.
We just don't have the ending.
So you have it. You've done all that. So we haven't done that.
Oh yeah, we got the plot. And we're putting in a bench so Katie can sit and.
It's actually cool.
Yeah.
Where, in the Chicago area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Hey, now you're not thinking about this, I know, but would you be inclined to have your ashes spread somewhere, Maria, or do you want to go on the ground?
You know what kind of sounds appealing is some people are requesting to be made into trees. So your ashes, you go in a little pod, like a biodegradable pod.
Yep.
And then you get planted with, like a seed as well. So like the roots grow around your pod, and the nutrients from your ashes go up into the tree and help the tree grow. So
I'd never heard of that.
You literally become a tree.
I love that.
Yeah.
My luck is I'd be struck by lightning. If I were a tree, God would say no.
Yeah, we're not doing that. No. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, it's that's actually very cool. See, I learned something. Because my cousin sat me down and said, hey, you can donate your body to, in this case, University of Cincinnati. They will then, they will cremate it, and there is even a cemetery, a beautiful one in Cincinnati, and there is a common grave for the people who have donated their bodies for research. That's pretty cool. So those are two kind of
common grave. They pour you all into the same grave.
They will, yes, or they
what
will.
If you don't like the people you're married?
There you go. Or
they will. Who my neighbors are.
I know. Or they will bring you your ashes and they will deliver them. And who the hell knows where they say, hey, take some ashes out to the Galvin household. Where are they? I don't know. There's a big pile of theirs. Take some ashes out there.
I've always believed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's someone back there going,
Yeah.
putting out a
I went when my father. True story.
There's Springer.
When my father died, and I don't mean to do a downer, my dad died. My mom went to the funeral home. They are in the ground.
Yes.
And my mother went in with my brother Jerry for the last moment to see before they brought the casket up to the viewing area for the visitation, as it's called. And they go in, and there are a whole line of caskets, all with the tops open because they were busy that week. And they go down the line, and my mother gasped. And my brother said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "They've got him in a brown suit. I brought them a blue suit." This is outrageous. That's not his suit. And my brother said, Mom, it's okay, because she was very upset. It's the day of the funeral. It's fine. Go upstairs. I'll handle this. And he went to the funeral director and he said, this has to be resolved. My mother's very upset. Why are you laughing? so my brother goes upstairs, and as he's going upstairs, because the funeral director says, Mr. Galvin, this will be handled. We are so sorry. He's going up the steps and he hears down below, hey, Bobby, switch the heads on 4 and 7.
No.
As I say. Anywho. Hey, let me ask you something, Jerry.
No, just don't.
Hey, you know what's funny?
How am I going to follow that?
You know what's funny?
Yeah, you know what?
I put this bit on the rundown. It's called the rundown. It's called the rundown.
Is that what you
And I put this thing on here about funerals.
Is that what
about
this is?
funerals? But I didn't think of that as a good setup for that joke until about 2 minutes ago. I thought, wait a minute, that joke will fit right in there.
That was perfect.
I am so creative. It's amazing. Anyway, that's why I'm executive producer. Hey, let me ask you a question, Jerry.
Yeah.
A lot of new members elected just recently to the U.S. House of Representatives, and some of them are Democratic socialists, like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And it's all part of the Bernie Sanders movement. I think some of these
Right.
people who are elected in very liberal areas of either California or the Northeast, is that movement going to catch on within the Democratic Party, and should it catch on? What do you think?
Well, with part of the party, it will. The leader, actually this time, as much as Bernie, even perhaps more so, is that young congresswoman from the Bronx in New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She and a Congressman Markey from Massachusetts have submitted the Green New Deal, which is a broad outline of the consequence of the New Deal in Roosevelt's time. In other words, it's a massive piece of what they think should be legislation, where within the next, it's a 10-year plan, within the next 10 years, America would move towards 100% renewable energy, have universal health care, Medicare for all, free college education, a whole bunch of things, which clearly would move America more along the continuum of socialism. Now, let me first say, every nation in the world is part socialist. Every single country in the world is part socialist. Because every country in the world has something that the government does that individuals can't do on their own, that not everything is free enterprise. So every country is somewhere on that continuum. And so when Trump, at his State of the Union message, say, you Democrats, aiming at the new candidates that for president that in the Democratic Party that are coming forth now, like Kamala Harris and Kirsten Gillibrand, and they're all coming from the left, and Elizabeth Warren. And so Trump says, in probably the most memorable line of his State of the Union address, which was written for him, but nevertheless was a powerful political message, was, we are not going to let America go back to socialism. Now, knowing that that is ever since the 1920s and the Red Scare and the McCarthy era, when people hear socialism, they're thinking communism, and they're thinking, oh, that's the end of freedom, et cetera, and we're going to wind up like Venezuela or whatever. And the Trump people are very smart. And I'm saying that, and I'm pretty far liberal, not all the way on the left, but pretty far liberal. But I just want to say a word of caution, particularly that the presidential candidates don't immediately sign on to this Green New Deal. It's okay if congressmen do, if congresswomen do, because it is the job of Congress to write legislation and be debated in hearings, and some form of something will be ultimately agreed upon, and over the years that'll become pieces of legislation, just like the New Deal. The New Deal wasn't one piece of legislation, it was many over a 5 or 6 year period, which finally gave us everything we have now: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera. Some of that came in the 50s, in the 60s with the civil rights movement. But that whole New Deal was a bunch of individual pieces of legislation. So it's okay that Congress does that. What I'd like to suggest today, even as a liberal Democrat, is let's not take our eye off the ball. Whatever causes we as liberals like, on the environment, on health insurance, on education, on affordable housing, any one of these issues where we all will nod, yes, we want that, none of it will take place with Trump in the White House. If Trump gets another 4 years, that stuff won't see the light of day for at least another 4 years and probably another decade till it gets going. So that has to be the priority. Every poll shows that America clearly has moved to the left. Every poll. On every one of these issues, more than 50% of America is for it. Health insurance for all, college education, all that stuff. Clearly, America is there. But if we're going to beat Trump, we have to make sure that the only issue on the ballot in 2020 is Trump. Because if there is suddenly something else which gets defined, and remember, the Republicans will define it, they'll say this is socialism, there will be enough Americans who don't like Trump, but I'm not talking about his 40% base. They would support him no matter what he was or what he does. But for the moderates, the independents, if you suddenly throw something else on the ballot, which is, do you want socialism? Because you can see the commercials now. Do you want where everyone has to give up their private insurance and everyone has to be in Medicare? You won't get to choose your doctors. The whole bit. They'll throw all that scarce stuff there. Some of it accurate, much of it not. There'll be enough voters that will hold their nose and wind up voting for Trump just because they don't want socialism, or they'll stay home because they don't want to vote for Trump. But we're going to wind up with the same situation we had a couple of years ago when people weren't crazy about Trump, but they didn't want Hillary. And this, Hillary they may not have liked, but socialism they're scared of. So we have to be careful. I don't mind that individual congressional candidates in their districts come out with the most extreme legislation they want. That is what Congress is for. Obama got criticized by some for leading from behind. That was the phrase used. Remember, he's leading from behind. I'm here to tell you that every great president we have, those that are on Mount Rushmore, every one of them led from behind. When you're president of the United States, you have to lead from behind. Until the American people are ready to move, you can't get them to move. So Lincoln, he didn't start out the Civil War with the Emancipation Proclamation and say we're going to do away with slavery. The war started to save the Union. And he was pushed and pushed by the abolitionists, by the fact that the North was losing and they needed to have a cause. So it wasn't until 2.5 years into the war that finally he issued the Emancipation Proclamation. And then it was only in those states that rebelled against the Union that their slaves would be free. In other words, Lincoln eventually got the whole country to agree to not permit slavery in the new territories. But he led from behind. He knew he didn't have the support yet. Franklin Roosevelt, for several years, he was dealing with Churchill, personally wanting to get America into the war, to stop the Nazis and to help England, coming up with the Lend-Lease Act, all sorts of different things, because America was still isolationist. He knew it wasn't there yet. And finally, with Pearl Harbor, America stood up and said, we're not taking it anymore. Now Roosevelt turned out to be one of the greatest presidents in leading us to win the Second World War. John Kennedy, we look at him now, and he and Johnson, the civil rights. It didn't happen. It took someone on the outside, Martin Luther King, and the leaders of the African-American community that during the 50s and early 60s were pushing civil rights. And only when we had television and everyone saw Bull Connors and the 6 o'clock news on television beating up on little black children who wanted to go to school, finally America was repulsed by that. And Kennedy went on television one night and said, this isn't America. We need to have a Civil Rights Act. And then, of course, after his assassination, Johnson got it through. You see, every one of them, all the things we are proud of today happened, including gay marriage. There wasn't one person running for president that said, we've got to have gay marriage. None of them did, even the ones we love. It was until the public stood up and said, finally, this is the direction. Now the president could say, now politicians could say, we're going to go and do it. So if a Democrat running for president in 2020 says, we have to, for example, we have to have compulsory Medicare for all, that people have to give up their personal insurance and everyone has to be under this system. Not voluntary, you have to be under it. As much sense as you think it makes, until America is there, a president will not be elected. So we are handing this over to Trump if we permit socialism to be on the ballot. So I'm just saying to all these candidates that now want to win the primaries, they immediately sign on. They haven't even seen the legislation yet. They don't even know what the particular bills are going to be. They don't know what it's going to cost. They don't know any of the details. They're going to get trapped on that. And the Republicans are already going to make their commercials. Well, Kamala Harris, who I love, I mean, I really think she'd be a great president. Why is she saying, yes, I'll do it. Yes, you'll have to give up your insurance. This is going to kill us in the end. So I'm just saying, for those running for president, step back. Give your overall view where the country should be headed. But stay away from specific legislation. It's not your job as president. Wait until the public is there and Congress presents bills to you, and then you can decide whether you'll support that particular bill or veto it. Why commit yourself to something that isn't down on paper? We're going to blow this.
We're going to get Black Mountain Throwdown back on up here for this podcast. We had him last time, and we loved the song that they brought to the table. Very fitting for this podcast, and we'd love to hear another one from them. I do want to go ahead and ask you guys, before we start playing here, before you guys play another song, to formally introduce yourselves. I know that there are multiple songwriters in this band. We want to give you guys all credit.
So everybody knows Easy Tom Evie, of course, as we say, the mayor of the West Side. Back here on the drums, the one and only, also from the West Side.
Neighbor.
Yeah, neighbor.
And we're talking the West Side of Cincinnati.
I just have to verify, was the house actually 4959 Western Hills Avenue? Because that's always the thing in the neighborhood. I just wanted to make sure it was.
There's a
actual
plaque
fact.
in front of it, isn't it? That's where we should put my face. No, there's a little hill in front of the house, right? You got to go up on the side of the hill, but you can't mow the lawn right there. You can't mow over my face.
I'll talk to the current neighbors. Or current owners, I mean.
Yeah, that was a great neighborhood.
Anyway, back here on the drums, the guy that we call the man who puts the O in rock and roll, Patrick O'Brien, back here on the drums, everybody. Over here, my partner for the last 5 years, since our band started in 2013, the fabulous Tim Caudell. And
Whoa!
And I am Harold Mike Sizemore, actually, on the internet. So, this next tune we did, I wrote it and actually put it on a solo record at one point, but then we decided we're going to record it for our next CD because it was such a good song, and I love the way these guys do it. So I wrote this song. It's like a love letter to the city of Memphis, Tennessee. It's called Think About Memphis. I could think about Elvis, Sam and Dave. I could think about Otis sitting on
Well,
Thanks for thinking about Ludlow.
we can put it in the next song.
That is a great song. Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
kidding.
Appreciate
that was
that.
super.
I think we're all gonna have that stuck in our heads for the rest
I
of
know.
the night.
I know. Yeah,
That's my hope.
Great.
I know you guys mentioned it last time, but we want to know again where we can hear for the listeners
We'll
out
be
there who are
playing at
listening.
Wonder Bar at the end of the month.
Oh,
Yes.
awesome! Wonder Bar in
February 23rd,
Covington.
So.
Wonder Bar in Covington, Kentucky.
Yes,
that
in
is.
Covington,
Yes.
Kentucky.
And where online can we hear you?
BlackMountainThrowdown.net
Okay,
is where you can find us. So that'll spread you out to all the other places we are online. So
Nice. Well, would you guys go ahead and take us out on Down by the Riverside? Let Jerry sing along, maybe?
I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my heavy load down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I ain't gonna study or no more.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, recorded live at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Check out our website at jerryspringer.com.
Or no more. Ain't gonna study war no more.
Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside.